Do you ever get that nagging feeling that things just aren't as good as they used to be?
Oh, absolutely.
That maybe ethical standards are slipping, people are less, you know, moral. It's pretty common sentiment, right?
It really is, yeah. And it's a feeling that seems to pop up everywhere across different cultures.
So today we're diving into this very question, this widespread perception of moral decline.
Right.
But here's the fascinating bit, the twist. Research actually suggests this feeling, it might just be a psychological illusion.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll explore why we feel this way, what the data actually says, and crucially, how this whole perception impacts ethical leadership, for better or sometimes for worse.
Yeah, our mission here in this deep dive is really to unpack these nuances for you.
Right.
We want to give you the latest insights, help you sort of distinguish between that powerful perception and the hard reality.
Okay.
Give you a clearer picture of our moral landscape and, what it truly means for leadership today.
So like we said, this feeling isn't just you, it's really widespread. Public opinion polls back this up. It's this belief in declining morality. There was a big 2023 study in Nature,
Right, I saw that one.
found this perception across, over 60 nations. And get this, it's a belief that's been around for at least 70 years.
70 years! That's incredible. So it's not a recent thing at all.
Not at all. And recent Gallup polls, they show record numbers of Americans rating moral values as poor.
Hmm.
Now, there's a partisan divide in the pessimism, sure, but negative views are pretty high across the board.
And what's really striking about that, though, is how this almost universal belief often doesn't quite line up with people's personal experiences.
How so?
Well, it's this widespread perception, yeah, but maybe, just maybe, it's an illusion we need to look closer at.
Okay, so what's driving it then? If it's maybe an illusion, why do we feel it so strongly?
Well, research points to a couple of really powerful cognitive biases. They sort of play tricks on our minds.
Okay, like what?
First up is negativity bias. Basically, we humans were just naturally more attuned to negative information. It grabs our attention.
Right, bad news travels fast.
Exactly. And the 2.7 news cycle, social media, they're massive amplifiers for this. They constantly blast us with unethical actions, scandals, problems.
Yeah, it feels relentless sometimes.
It does. And it creates a strong impression that bad behavior is way more common than it probably is. Plus, algorithms feed us more of what outrages us, creating echo chambers.
Mm-hmm.
It skews our perspective, makes the present seem like you said, a moral wasteland.
A moral wasteland. Yeah, I like that term. And it sets up the second bias perfectly, doesn't it? Memory bias.
Spot on. Sometimes called rosy retrospection or fading effect bias. This one's a real doozy.
Okay, break that down.
Basically, negative feelings tied to past events. They tend to fade faster from our memory than the positive ones.
Ah, okay. Like remembering the fun parts of a vacation, but forgetting the travel delays or the bad weather.
Precisely. Or thinking school days were simpler, forgetting the exams and the social stress. That selective memory makes the past seem much better, much more wholesome than it likely was.
Right.
Even if it had plenty of its own problems, it creates this rosy-tinted, nostalgic view, a kind of moral wonderland where things felt inherently better.
So we end up with this wasteland versus wonderland effect. We compare our biased, negative view of now the wasteland to this idealized, fuzzy memory of then the wonderland.
And naturally, we conclude things must be going downhill. Morality must be declining.
But, and this is the crucial bit, right? This conclusion isn't always backed up by, actual evidence.
That's the core issue. When you actually ask people about the morality, the civility of folks they know personally, friends, family, colleagues,
Yeah.
their reports don't really worsen over time. In fact, some studies show people perceive moral improvement in their immediate personal world.
Wow, okay. That's a huge contradiction then. Feeling decline out there, but not in here.
Exactly. And it's not just about personal connections either. Some controlled studies, like economic games, they actually show people today might be more likely to make generous choices compared to previous generations in those settings.
More generous. Interesting. What about bigger historical trends?
Well, if you look at objective data over centuries, truly abhorrent things like, say, slavery, murder rates, rape rates, they have actually declined significantly.
Okay, that's important context.
Definitely. And even survey data that specifically tracks perceptions of contemporary morality. It's remained surprisingly stable for decades. It hasn't plummeted.
And you mentioned something about generations.
Yeah, there's this consistent pattern in surveys going back again, over 70 years, people tend to feel morality started declining right around the time they were born or coming of age.
Huh. So every generation thinks the next one is messing things up.
Sort of. Older
Uh,
generations often see younger ones as lacking discipline or values, but when you look at how people judge their own contemporaries' morality over time, those judgments haven't really declined. It's a fascinating repeating cycle.
okay, so biases explain a lot of the feeling. Are
Yeah.
there other things feeding this perception?
Oh, sure. Beyond the cognitive stuff, other factors definitely contribute. Erosion of trust in institutions is a big one.
Right. High-profile scandals involving leaders, government, business that foster cynicism.
Absolutely. Then there's maybe the intense focus on individualism, on materialism, that emphasis on personal success, sometimes over collective well-being,
Yeah, it can feel like ethics take a backseat sometimes.
and widening economic inequality, that perception of an unfair system, maybe feeling like you have to make compromises just to get by.
That makes sense. What about changing standards?
That's a huge one, too. What was considered perfectly acceptable 50 years ago might be seen as deeply immoral today. Think about civil rights, LGBTQ+ rights.
Right. So some people see those changes as moral progress, while others might see the shifting norms as moral decline.
Exactly. It leads to very different views on whether things are getting better or worse, depending on your baseline.
And I suppose this perception of decline can be well used.
Definitely. It can be exploited. Political figures sometimes promise to, halt that illusory slide, tapping into those fears. It's a powerful narrative.
So understanding all this, these biases, these other factors, it really helps you, the listener, kind of critically assess the news you see, the things you hear, and even your own gut feelings about society's moral compass.
It's about being a more informed observer, definitely.
Okay, so if widespread moral decline might be more illusion than reality, that leads us to a really critical question. What about our leaders?
Mm-hmm.
Because recent reports do seem to suggest a decline in ethical leadership, especially, say, in the business world.
Yeah, that's where the picture gets a bit more concerning, perhaps. There was a 2024 Fortune survey.
Right.
It found that while the public is demanding more ethical leadership, the perceived supply is actually decreasing. Fewer CEOs were ranked in that top tier of moral leadership.
So a gap between demand and supply, why is that happening? Why the drop in ethical leadership specifically?
Well, there are several likely reasons. A big one is often a lack of real accountability. Ineffective governance, weak boards, weak consequences when leaders do mess up ethically.
Impunity, basically.
Pretty much. And then there's that intense pressure for short-term gains we talked about.
Yeah, quarterly results driving everything.
Exactly. That focus on immediate profits can easily outweigh long-term ethical thinking. It can fuel corporate greed, maybe exploitation, and of course, sometimes it's just self-interest. Leaders with, say, narcissistic traits prioritizing their own gain over the organization or its people.
And these leaders, if they're manipulative, they can actually foster a kind of moral decline within their own organization, right? It's not just them being bad, they can spread it.
Absolutely. And it's usually a gradual thing, a slow creep.
How does that work?
Well, they might start by rewarding results over integrity, sending signals that hitting targets, no matter how, is what really counts.
So the how doesn't matter as much as the what.
Precisely. Then there's leading by immoral example. If leaders are dishonest, disrespectful, manipulative themselves, they provide a model. Others see it, maybe see them getting ahead because of it, and start copying.
What else?
Exploiting charisma for personal gain is a classic. That charming leader who uses their appeal to manipulate followers for selfish ends.
Right, and fostering a culture of fear and silence.
Huge. Suppressing dissent, making people afraid to speak up about ethical concerns, so problems just fester, unreported.
And normalizing conflicts of interest, like giving contracts to buddies or family.
Yep. Putting personal gain ahead of the organization's best interests. Another tactic is kind of ignoring ethical boundaries in the name of innovation.
The move fast and break things idea, taken too far.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Justifying risky or unethical shortcuts by claiming they're necessary for groundbreaking progress, acting like the rules don't apply to them.
There's actually a framework for this, isn't there? Marianne Jennings' Signs of Ethical Collapse.
That's right. She identified 7 common patterns, 7 signs that often show up when things are going ethically wrong, often facilitated by leadership.
Okay, let's run through them quickly.
Sure. First, pressure to maintain numbers, leading to fudging data. Second, fear and silence, employees scared to talk.
Third, a bigger-than-life CEO, basically unchallenged. Fourth, linked to that, a weak board that doesn't provide oversight.
Fifth, conflicts of interest, personal game-driving decisions. Sixth, that innovation like no other mindset, ignoring rules for growth.
And 7.
Goodness, in some areas, atones for evil in others, like using high-profile charity work to distract from misconduct happening inside.
Wow. Those 7 signs paint a pretty clear picture.
Ah.
But why do leaders fall into these traps? Is it always malicious intent?
Not necessarily, no. Sometimes it's the sheer pressure of the environment. Fear of failure, maybe losing faith that the right way will actually work fast enough. Manipulation can feel like a shortcut.
Okay, so pressure and fear.
Yeah. But other times, it is more about misguiding belief in personal gain. Self-serving motives, maybe overconfidence, narcissism, believing they're above the rules, using charm to get ahead at others' expense.
Right.
And then there are just, well, ineffective or unhealthy habits. Some leaders might carry childhood tactics like throwing tantrums or using guilt into their adult leadership roles.
Right.
It happens. They might genuinely confuse manipulation with strong leadership, or maybe they just avoid accountability by blaming others.
It sounds like a recipe for disaster within an organization.
Yeah.
What's really alarming, though, connecting back to the first part, is that if a leader believes in that general moral decline we talked about, even if it's an illusion for society, they might use that belief to justify a harsher leadership style.
That's a really critical link, yes.
Yeah.
Believing the world is decaying morally can absolutely be used to justify becoming more rigid, more controlling, more punitive.
How does that play out?
Well, historically, you see leaders using a perception of decay to consolidate power, clamp down on dissent. Think authoritarianism. We saw it in ancient Rome, even. It can also fuel populism, positioning themselves as the strong leader needed to restore lost moral order.
And inside an organization, what does that leader's belief do?
It can be incredibly destructive. If they tolerate or model unethical behavior because they think everyone's doing it or the world's corrupt anyway,
Yeah.
it erodes trust completely. It can cause what researchers call moral injury in employees, that deep psychological harm when your own values are violated by leaders or the system. It leads to disengagement, burnout, people leaving.
Creates a toxic environment.
Totally. A fear-based climate where communication shuts down, critical thinking suffers. And ultimately, if leaders believe the rules don't matter, they might feel justified, prioritizing profit over people, destroying pride in work, and ducking accountability.
So why should you, the listener, care about recognizing all this?
Because spotting these tactics, these signs of ethical collapse, it empowers you. It helps you identify unhealthy leadership, understand its impact, and protect yourself and the integrity of your workplace.
Okay, so we've got this potential illusion of general moral decline, but also this very real concern about ethical leadership collapse.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? How do we actually build a more ethical future?
Right. It really boils down to two things, I think. On one hand, conscious self-mastery for us as individuals. And on the other, intentional culture crafting within organizations. How do we actually build ethical environments?
Let's start with the individual level. That conscious self-mastery, what does that involve?
It really begins with self-awareness, regularly checking in with your own core values. Asking yourself, What are my intentions here? Is this for mutual benefit or mostly just for me?
And maybe tracking your own behaviors.
Exactly. Noticing if you tend towards things like gaslighting, making someone doubt their own reality, or maybe blaming others when things go wrong, and actively seeking feedback, even when it's tough to hear. Awareness is step one.
Makes sense. What else?
Practicing empathy and compassion, really trying to actively listen, understand where others are coming from. It helps make more ethical choices and communicate respectfully.
And broadening your perspective, getting outside your own bubble.
Crucial. Intentionally seeking out diverse viewpoints helps counteract our own biases. And importantly, holding yourself accountable, taking responsibility when you mess up, learning from it, that builds trust.
And if these manipulative patterns are, deeply ingrained?
Well, then embracing personal growth might mean seeking help, professional coaching, therapy maybe, developing healthier coping mechanisms, focusing on long-term success built on trust, not just those short-term wins from manipulation.
Okay, that covers the individual side.
Yeah.
Now, what about organizations? That intentional culture crafting. How do institutions foster ethical leadership and stop manipulation?
It absolutely has to start at the top.
Yeah.
Leading by example. Senior leaders must consistently walk the talk: integrity, honesty, respect.
And that includes admitting mistakes, right?
Oh, definitely. Admitting mistakes, taking responsibility that models accountability for everyone else. Then, promote transparency and accountability systemically.
Right.
Define clear ethical standards, communicate them constantly, and, importantly, have consistent consequences when those standards are violated. Robust feedback systems are key to anonymous reporting channels, encouraging two-way communication so issues actually surface.
Okay. What about creating a safe space for people to speak up?
That's paramount. Building psychological safety. Fostering a speak-up culture where people aren't afraid to voice concerns or point out problems.
Easier said than done sometimes.
True. It means viewing mistakes as learning opportunities, not just reasons to blame someone. And maybe using techniques like jazz dialogues.
Jazz dialogues, what's that?
It's basically a structured kind of improvisational conversation. Like musicians in a jazz band, ideas build on each other collaboratively. It helps ensure all voices get heard and valued, co-creating solutions.
Interesting. What about training?
Essential. Incorporate ethical education for everyone, but especially leaders. Training on ethical decision-making, recognizing biases, spotting manipulative tactics. Frameworks can help here, like the PLMLS ethical decision-making model.
Yeah, obvious.
Yeah, it helps filter decisions by checking against P policies, L legality, universal values, and S self. Does it align with your own conscience?
Got it. And shifting the focus away from just profits.
Absolutely. Prioritize long-term value creation over just hitting the next quarterly target. Thinking sustainably, considering all stakeholders, not just shareholders.
Empowering employees seems important too.
Hugely. Empower employees, grant them real authority, trust them, give them the tools and support they need. It makes them less dependent on potentially manipulative bosses.
Yeah, and finally, checks and balances.
Critical. Implement checks and balances to diffuse power. No single person should have excessive control. Regular ethics audits, assessments. You need to monitor the ethical climate and be ready to adjust. It's like building muscle takes ongoing effort.
So what this means for you, the listener, is you can work on cultivating these individual qualities yourself, and you can also look at organizations, maybe potential employers, and evaluate them based on whether they seem to be putting these institutional strategies into practice. It helps you choose healthier environments.
Exactly. Creating better environments for everyone.
So wrapping this up, we've really unpacked a fascinating kind of counterintuitive truth today, this widespread perception of moral decline. Often it seems it's an illusion, a trick of our minds, shaped by biases, amplified by media.
Right. But at the same time, the decline in ethical leadership and the very real ways manipulation can take root in organizations, that's a pressing concern, not an illusion at all.
So knowing that the broader moral wasteland out there might be partly a mirage, does that change how you view your own ethical responsibilities?
Does it maybe inspire you to look harder for the good that is happening rather than just focusing on the perceived decay?
I'm thinking about leadership. How does recognizing those signs of manipulation empower you? Maybe to be a better leader yourself, or maybe to demand more from the leaders around you.
Yeah. This deep dive hopefully encourages you not just to observe passively, but to actively participate, to help cultivate a more ethical future. One choice, one conversation.
One leader at a time.